Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeCharis, CPA extraordinaire, coming to you live from downtown Bethpage, Long Island, New York, for another amazing episode of How to Win at Business. And I've been trying to win a business for a long time. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. So I trick people that know how to succeed into business into coming on and being interviewed by me. So I get a lot of free advice. Nobody, it's my little secret. So if you want to learn anything for free, if you want to get free coaching, just start your own podcast. And tonight I have a fellow suffering tax expert, Carlos okay, so nobody pronounces my name right. Samaniego.
Diego. It almost sounds like San Diego. Samaniego.
Oh, okay. I should have practiced, but well, it doesn't matter. I would have botched it anyway. I still can't. Samaniego. Say that fast 15 times.
Bingo.
Okay, so we know each other quite a while, but I don't really know you that well because the group that we're in has like almost 200 people in, and you don't. So it's great that we connected again. Plus, with COVID, I don't think anybody's seen
each other in a while.
Yeah, I mean, we've been connecting through Zoom, but it's not the same.
Right.
And what we're talking about, folks, is Craig Duswalt's Rock Your Life Mastermind Group, which is unbelievable. I've connected with so many people like Carlos over the last like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And so we're going to turn the show into Craig Duswalt's promotion. But that's just a side note. It's just, part of being successful in business. A big part of it is surrounding yourself with like-minded people that know stuff that you don't know. And I've been doing taxes for a long, long time, probably longer than a lot of people have been alive. But I'm sure that this gentleman is going to teach me something. And if he could teach me something about taxes, I'm sure he could teach you something. So, Carlos, that was a long intro.
Yeah.
I didn't actually say anything about you, but
I appreciate the invite, especially after this rough day dealing with the IRS and state officials. Sometimes you just need kind of a break in your day of doing that stuff. So I was actually really looking forward to this call today to talk tax stuff.
So yeah, get away from the tax stuff to talk about tax stuff. I feel your pain. It's not easy. A long time ago when my first practice, I specialized in tax problems. And I equate it to like being a divorce lawyer.
Right.
You can get sucked into people's pain and misery, and that's what happened to me. So I don't specialize in that anymore.
I totally get it. I think half the time my wife assists me quite a bit. Her desk is over here, and one day she was in here listening to my conversation with a couple that came in, and after they left, she goes, "You're more of a counselor than a tax person," and you're right, Joe. It's just tax problems, and when you have a tax problem, obviously it affects your life in many different areas. And one of the first places it will affect is your relationships. And it's kind of how I got into this business is literally, and I'm not sure if you know the details of my story, but
no, that's why we're here.
Yeah, I literally back in my 20s, I was working as an EMS worker, EMT paramedic, driving an ambulance around town. And it was one of my first jobs coming out of the military. And, all those individuals, they like working overtime because you get big checks, right? And I remember it was Christmas season. I was working these 24-hour shifts nonstop. And then this older guy who happened to be like 20 years old, I think I was 19. So he was 21. He's like, dude, all you got to do is claim 10 exemptions on your paycheck, and they're not going to hold taxes. You're going to get a bigger paycheck. In the infinite wisdom of the older guy, that's exactly what I did. And we see this as tax people when people claim more exemptions than they should. Well, guess what? You do get a bigger paycheck. but the piper needs to be paid eventually. And what ended up happening to me is that by the time it was time to file taxes, I realized I had the taxes prepared, but the tax bill was so big. I'm like, I'm not filing these returns because I can't afford to pay this tax bill. And we all know that's the worst thing you could do is not file the return.
But that's what happens a lot of times.
Absolutely.
So you took advice from, an older gentleman. He was 20, you were 19.
Right.
He must know what he's doing. He's been working longer than me.
Exactly.
And, and little did you know that when it comes to filing your taxes, you're going to, and then what happens is they don't have money. They don't, and then 5 years later, they haven't filed for 5 years.
And you know what? That almost leads up to my story, because what ends up happening is that all of a sudden you start getting this bigger paycheck. And what ends up happening, Joe, we know what happens. Everybody's lifestyle increases. I ended up getting a bigger apartment. I ended up buying a 1987 Nissan hardbody truck. I remember I had a bigger paycheck. I can get a nicer car. So your lifestyle lives up to that. And the next thing you know is that, the following year rolls around. I don't have the money again. I don't file the taxes. But now my lifestyle has caught up to my income. And if I were to change that, there goes my lifestyle. I was the guy going to the clubs with all my friends. Hey, I'll buy drinks. I was rolling in the dough. And fast forward 8 years later, Joe, I had gone 8 years with not filing my taxes.
Wow.
And the interesting part about this, this is back in the 80s, not today's, right? Late 80s, early into the 90s. It wasn't so computerized. It wasn't as easy to find people. They would send letters to the last known address. Back then, I was moving every 6 months to a year, new apartment, nicer, a nicer place to live. So I'm going through this process. So no one's ever caught me. But guess who did catch me? It wasn't the IRS, Joe. It was the state of the state of California.
The state.
Oh yeah,
the states are always worse.
They're worse. Right? So they actually sent me a nice little letter. Hey, we noticed you haven't filed last year's return, and that just caused a domino effect. They contacted me. Interesting part though, they had contacted me, and I started. I worked something out with them. At the time, they were just like, okay, just file your return and start making these payments. They still hadn't caught up to the multiple years yet. They were just looking for 1 year's return.
Wow.
Eventually, what ends up happening, they end up finding, oh, you haven't filed all these years. They notify the IRS, hey, we so-and-so, and that just created my nightmare. And that led into, by this time, I'm in my 30s. And I was living this life. In my book, you see the Godfather, is it right there? You see him there. And I say I was almost living the life of a mobster because I wouldn't talk to anybody about it. I wouldn't open my mail. I didn't answer my telephone. When you got tax problems, it's one of the few things you don't share. What do you do? Go up to your friends and say, hey, I haven't filed my taxes in 8 years? It just doesn't happen that way, right? Do you tell your spouse? And the scary part here is that there are so many spouses in this type of situation where the one spouse hasn't filed in many years. They may or may not know about it. And my situation, kind of what caused me to finally do something about it, I had met my wife. We had started dating. We got engaged. And Joe, I was a scumbag. And I talk about this in my book. I'm a scumbag because I married my wife never telling her I hadn't filed taxes in 8 years. So, and it wasn't literally until after I got married, I realized, what the hell did I just do? Because my problems, and we know this, if you marry somebody with tax problems and start filing those returns together, your problems just became their problem.
They're going to take your refund.
Yeah.
They don't care that you married.
They're going to find out real fast, right? And literally that's what caused me to find help. I started doing research on my own to find out who can help me with this type of problem. And a lot of you guys may not know, listening to this, there's basically 3 types of people that can help you solve a tax problem. It's a CPA, such as Joe, an enrolled agent like myself, or an attorney. Those are the 3 people that are allowed to represent you before the IRS in regards to tax matters. So doing my research, I ended up finding a CPA EA that lived locally here. His name's Ernie. I actually got a picture. Oh, there it is. There's that little picture right there. It's actually Ernie. He's the one. I sat down at his desk, and he was like my godfather. I remember him sitting. He was a former IRS agent. He was sitting at his desk, his arms closed. He goes, "Carlos, tell me your story." I kind of told him the story I just told you, and he goes, "Bottom line, Carlos, you're a good guy. You made a bad mistake, took some bad advice, and you want to do right, correct? You want to get back in the system." I go, "Absolutely." And he goes, "You don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of it." Joe, that was the day that changed my life, because for the first time, I remember leaving there. It felt like the weight of the world fell off my shoulders, because now I knew at least I was on the road to getting this problem solved that I've been living with. Think about this. I went 8 years in my 20s, but it wasn't until almost my mid to late 30s before I really started solving this problem.
So let me ask you something, because
Yeah.
this is interesting. I never met somebody that went through the kind of thing that we help people with, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So weren't you and now I know how our brains work. I've been studying this, our subconscious, like was it consciously, like you were like, oh shoot, I really got to or was it all like stuffed in your unconscious, like, and you didn't even realize it?
You know what? It's almost, and I see this with clients, and now looking back, you almost put it away as though it doesn't exist. Like,
but it does exist, and
exactly.
That's still affecting our behavior. That's what I was like, wait a minute, you mean I'm not actually making the decisions? My subconscious is driving everything?
In essence, it feels like it is. It really is. And I think what caused me is that it got to the point where I knew I was going to lose something that I loved, which was my soon-to-be spouse. If I didn't tell her this, and there's reasoning. Why doesn't somebody tell their spouse or tell their girlfriend, or it's just because they're afraid? What are they going to do? Are they going to leave you?
They'll disown you.
Exactly.
You.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. And I've seen that. I've had people walk in here with that problem.
So let me ask you a few questions now.
Sure.
So you said, your wife said, oh, you're more of a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, I want to know your take on this.
Yeah.
Somebody has a tax problem. It's usually a symptom of another problem.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, and it could be anything. It could be the fear of money. It could be they just don't manage their finances correctly. They're in denial. Maybe they have a drug problem or an alcohol problem. You don't know, but usually, and that's what killed me. A lot of times I would help people, get them out of a situation, and then they'd go right back. Is that your?
That is a very common thing.
So our clients really need therapy.
All we're really doing initially is just putting on a Band-Aid. I was a medic in the Army, and and one thing you learn is triage. You're only dealing with the most urgent emergency thing that's happening at the time, and sometimes that's kind of what it is.
So I
know for a fact, just knowing the history. By the time I'm working on somebody, I know the long-term history of what's going on. I can almost tell you, Joe, that I know 6 months, a year down the road, they're going to be right back in that situation.
But there's nothing you can do about it.
There really is.
Now you get into handling tax problems when I started in tax problems. It was handling audits, some criminal investigations. I actually, now this is the truth. I was working for a couple of them, CPA firms that were criminal enterprises.
Wow.
And this is where I got a lot of my tax problem solving knowledge and experience from. So this one firm, I was only there like 9 months, but I was the tax problem guy, and they had a lot of people with tax problems. It turned out that they weren't CPAs. They bought the firm from a CPA firm. Long story short, there's some kind of like letter going out to our clients, like, please contact special agent so and so. So it winds up on my desk, and they're like, okay, find out what this is, Joe. it turns out the firm was under investigation.
No kidding. Oh man.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Yeah, that would be scary.
Yeah. So I was the only one the IRS didn't interview. And I was like, are they after me?
Oh, right, right.
But
Yeah, that'll scare the crap out of you, right? It
so
would.
that started my career. I had a foundation in tax problems, but they were audits, offers and compromise. Yeah, the collections, that was like an afterthought, but that's where you specialize in now, right?
Yeah, everything from A to Z when it comes to collections. So, obviously, if somebody owes money to the IRS will attempt to collect. And there's specific remedies depending on one, the amount that you owe, two, how long the IRS has to collect on that, and three, your personal financial condition. One of the things right now that is very common right now is a lot of people still aren't working. They're on unemployment. In fact, we all know just recently, I know in California at least, all unemployment benefits stopped as of this week.
Yeah.
So even though a lot of these people were getting unemployment, now they're not getting unemployment. So, and when you have large tax debts and you don't have the ability to pay back, what a lot of people don't realize is the IRS does have a problem, a solution. It's called a currently not collectible. It's where you show the IRS, hey, I don't have the ability to pay back this debt based on my current income and my current expenses. And the IRS will literally shut down collections.
Okay.
In fact, when my situation, when I got myself in trouble, that's exactly the solution was initially to solve my problem.
Because you just didn't have the current income. So let's talk about this a second, because I never used this as a strategy. I never looked at it as a strategy, but now I could see it is a strategy. Especially with COVID, there's going to be next couple of years, this, because a lot of people didn't file. They just didn't have it was the last thing on people's minds.
Exactly.
So explain who qualifies for, because it doesn't make the taxes go away, right?
Doesn't make the taxes go away,
And
but what's
the interest and penalties are still going up.
Right? They still accrue. But what's interesting though is that, remember, a lot of people don't realize that the IRS has only got 10 years to collect on a debt once it's been assessed.
Unless you unknowingly agree to extend it, and that's what happens a lot.
A lot of times, there's a variety of different things that can extend that time frame. But like one of the first things I'm doing is that when I'm dealing with a new case, the first thing I do, I call it a phase one investigation discovery of what's going on. What is the problem? And one of the things I'm looking for is like, when do these debts expire? Are they going to expire 6 months down the road, a year down the road? Because I want to make sure that I don't do anything to cause that debt, to cause that statute to stop. Because I've literally had a situation where one client came in, the IRS was trying to collect a bigger amount of monthly payment from him, which he couldn't afford. And I had looked at the statute and found out like $40,000 was going to disappear like in months. Wow. So my only job was getting the IRS to agree to keep them on their current installment payment long enough for this debt to disappear, which we were able to do. And he recently called me because he was super jazzed because he went and looked. It's gone. The debt doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So, and what's the beauty behind the currently not collectible? If you can get the IRS to agree to do that, it does not stop that statute. The time clock keeps on ticking.
Really? Wow.
So that's the beautiful part about that currently not collectible.
That's big. Yeah. So we only have a couple of minutes. We spent a long time just chatting. I want to give everybody something to walk away with.
Oh, absolutely.
So you also do offers and compromise, right?
I do.
Okay. So I used to do a lot of those.
Okay.
And part of it is that you got to show that these people will never be able to pay the taxes back, right?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with the offer. There's two big takeaways. For all of you guys are going to hear on the radio, they're being massive television ads, radio ads, print ads, and people calling you, trying to convince you that everybody qualifies. And the IRS specifically put up a statement on their website, be careful of the offer and compromise mills. Because what's happening is that they're convincing everybody that they qualify. They'll collect $3, $4, $5, $10, $15,000 from them, full well knowing that they don't qualify. And what a lot of people don't realize is that once you submit an offer to the IRS, it's going to take them anywhere from 12 to 24 months to process that. So what happens is that they'll do this for thousands of people, make millions of dollars, and they shut shop up and they're gone. Yeah. And then you find out a year down the road, you never qualify. The IRS denies it and you can't find them. And all they did was open up shop down the street under a different name and doing the same thing.
You know, my aunt worked for the IRS and she used to tell me about those firms. I can't, you know, some of them are national.
Yeah.
And she's like, she would have clients say, oh, I have an attorney. The firm never even filed a power of attorney. They never submitted any kind of documents. And I mean, they were like, oh my God, we paid them $10,000.
And they just pile it up. And I can tell you this, Joe, and I tell every one of my clients, if they're thinking about an offer, I can normally tell you in about a 10 to 15 minutes whether you even have a possibility of that happens. And
yeah, me too.
Quick phone call. You know, tell me how much money do you owe? Do you own a house? Do you have any significant money in a bank account? And then I can kind of give you a rough idea. You know, I've personally had a 100% success rate on all my offers. In fact, I don't know if you saw it. I posted one recently. Had a individual, it was over just under $500,000, 490 something thousand, and the IRS accepted $4,600.
Wow.
I can't figure out the numbers exactly.
That's a
happy guy. But I'm telling you, it took 18 months for that thing to get processed.
Yeah.
It took a while. And it got denied initially. And I had to go back to the IRS. And here's the thing too, Joe. The IRS is really good at denying them right up front. So you have to have somebody that's experienced to know what they're doing and what they're playing with you, how they're playing their numbers, and be able to come back and renegotiate to get it accepted. So this was a denied offer that was reaccepted based on the numbers that I gave them.
Awesome. So listen, unfortunately, I gotta run because I got another 6:30 thing.
That sounds good.
But yeah. So how do people get in touch with you? First of all, you know, we have to work together because you do stuff that I might not want to do or get involved with.
And likewise.
Yeah. So let's stay connected. How do people get in touch with you?
You know what I'm going to do, Joe, for all your readers, I'm going to give them my free book. I have a book that I sell for Amazon. It's normally $15. If you go to taxdebtbook.com, taxdebtbook.com, if you go there, you can get the free entire PDF, absolutely free, no cost. Just go grab the book. And then you'll get my contact information when you download that free book. There's no cost there.
Okay, so what is it again? Did you freeze?
Hello?
Yeah, I could hear you. I'm sorry? Okay, I think I lost Carlos.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, what was the name of that?
Taxdebtbook.com.
Oh, taxdebtbook.com. All right, Carlos, my friend, I'm going to see you in October. That's only a couple of weeks. All right. Okay. Yeah. Taxdebtbook.com. All right, Carlos, you're frozen here.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.